Alright, welcome to the first episode of Let's Play 1001 Games, the web series where I'm going to try and work my way through a book called 1001 Games You Must Play Before You Die. As you can see, I have the first game already loaded up here. It is Pong. Interestingly, it's not the first game in the book. I think the first game was Oregon Trail, which, of course, is a classic, which I'm looking forward to playing. But I felt like Pong was probably the better game to start on. In my mind, it's sort of what people think of when they think of iconic original video games, you know? I mean, maybe Pac-Man or Space Invaders might fit this as well. But Pong really is, in my mind at least, the beginning of everything. And so you can see, I'm not playing right now. Actually, I was just trying to set up the video recording for this, which was a freaking nightmare. Because this is actually the original 1972 arcade version of Pong that I'm emulating right here. And I thought, you know, maybe by the end of the video I'd try and get it set up so the two paddles are just hitting things back and forth forever. Because I thought that'd be funny. And in trying to set it up, I stumbled upon this. And so I figured, well, I guess I gotta start the video now. I'm actually going to try and play this for a second here. Playing and talking is going to be the hard part. Shit, crap. Okay. Oh, God. Yeah, I don't know how much playing I'm going to get in here, because there's quite a lot I want to say. You can just watch me do horribly as I try and talk and play at the same time right now. So this is the first of 1001 games that I want to play. Why did I decide to make this series? Well, I got this book for Christmas called 1001 Games You Must Play Before You Die, and I thought it would be kind of a fun idea to go through and play them all. And what would be even more fun is if there was some record of myself playing it. So, if for no other reason than I'm kind of making this for myself, but hopefully some of you out there might find this interesting and actually watch and get a laugh or two or feel some nostalgia over these old games. Man, it's a lot harder than it looks. And I should say, oh, can we get it? No, thought we could get it bouncing forever. When I was trying to set this up too, so this is all running in an emulator. I don't have an original 1972 arcade cabinet of Pong in my house. But this, it was just a nightmare to set up. For some reason, it destroys the audio. If you try and record audio through like this video recording software while you're recording this game, it just is totally incompatible. So I'm actually recording my audio completely separately. I'm going to have to sync it up later. And there were all kinds of problems getting this working. Which is funny, because it's such an old, hey, look, I did it again. Alright, that's boring. Such an old game that you'd think there wouldn't be any problems kind of getting it to run. The other funny thing is there's no computer opponent, so I'm literally, obviously, playing against myself here. And I don't know when Pong ends. Does it end when you hit a certain score? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Yeah, so I got this book, 1001 Games to Play Before You Die, and I was looking through it, and there's just so much nostalgia in there that I figured I really have to play this game, or these games. And so I thought I'd make this series. Man, that happens a lot more than you think with them bouncing back and forth. So I decided to make this series and play through the games. I guess I'm kind of talking in circles right now. Okay, I'm getting too distracted. I'm gonna, one paddle won. The right paddle won. Huzzah! So I guess it does end. First one to 11. Would make sense. This was an arcade cabinet. Of course it can't go on forever. Anyway, I did some research on YouTube to see if anyone else has had this idea, because it seemed semi-original, but, of course, everybody's had almost every idea in the world. Turns out other people have thought of this too. So you can go and you can look, and other people have started to play these 1001 games. Now, what I think is going to set me apart is that no one who I found who started to do this really got past 10 games. They all kind of gave up. So hopefully you can stick around with me and I'll get through at least 100. But I mean, my goal is 1001, but it's a very long-term goal. I'm definitely not going to quit at 10. So you'll see quite a few more videos of this. And the other thing is that a lot of people who were making these videos, they weren't making Let's Plays. You know, they'd play the game for about 2 minutes, and that would be that. And, you know, I like watching Let's Plays on YouTube. I like watching gamers play various things. And I just thought, you know, why aren't there these people making Let's Plays of these games? I think that would be much more interesting. And so I figured that's what I would do. Now, I picked Pong first because I said it's sort of the grandfather of video games in my mind. But I also had this stupid idea now that it would be really easy to talk over, because Pong would be almost a non-game. You know, it is so easy, you barely have to pay attention, you just move the paddle. But I am having a lot of difficulty trying to keep my thoughts straight and play this stupid game at the same time. So it's kind of backfired. And I must say the game is harder than I thought. You know, hey look, it happened again. This must happen a lot. Which is kind of funny. I thought it would be so hard to get that to happen, but it happens all the time. So I had this idea, it'd be really easy to talk over Pong. I could introduce myself, introduce the series. By the way, I'm Gaming Jay, and I'll be your host for the next 1001 games. So yeah, I'm going to play 1001 games. There's actually some games, as I was leafing through the book, that I remembered from my childhood that aren't in the book. And so I decided that, you know, if I keep this up, I'm actually going to probably play some games that are off book. So I'll probably publish some videos called Off the Books, which I thought was a clever title. Haha. So it'll be a little more than just a Let's Play of 1001 games. You know, I figure that each video will be a different game. But, you know, when we get to some more complicated games, maybe I'll do a couple videos on the same game so we can actually get somewhere in it. Yeah, what else is there to say? So much, right? Let's see. Well, I already talked about how I thought Pong was going to be a really easy one to talk over, and it is so hard to concentrate. It's unbelievable. I kind of wish there was a computer opponent so that it would be a little easier to play this, because having to control both paddles, you never get a second to breathe. And they're just so damn tiny. I don't remember it being like this. I think I played Pong on an Atari, actually, when I was just a little kid. For those of you who don't know, Atari was one of the first home consoles. I mean, there was the, like, Magnavox, things like that before it. But Atari was sort of first one with cartridges. Well, I mean, the others did. It was the first really popular one, I guess. And it had actually some nice wood built into it. You know, it was in the 80s when technology and electronics still, you know, were extensions of your wood furniture and coffee tables. So it's kind of funny that way. It was, for its time, Atari was pretty revolutionary. These days, it's a nightmare. You couldn't imagine a company developing a console where you have all these switches on the front. Imagine the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, and they have a bunch of switches on the front that you have to configure for each game you want to play. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. But, yeah, Pong Classic. I came up with some talking points on Pong to try and keep things interesting, but what I'm realizing is it's really hard to play this game and talk, so I'm going to let this ball bounce around for a little and talk a little more about some things. So, who would play Pong these days? Probably no one. You know, I couldn't really imagine somebody picking Pong up and just playing it for fun. Maybe if you played this a lot as a kid and you had like fond memories of it, but I mean, it's really, again, well, that's nice, it gives me a little bit of a break. But who would just play Pong in their spare time? It seems like kind of an outdated game, and it got me to thinking, like, when Pong came out, this is probably pretty revolutionary, and people went nuts over this. You know, there's an episode of that 70s show where the character Kelso is like obsessed with Pong and plays it all the time. And people probably had their friends over to their basements to play on their Ataris and play their Pong. But like now, no one would really, you know, besides some guy in his basement loading it up for a Let's Play, who's going to go to all the trouble to play Pong? There's so many better games. And Pong is almost a non-game. It's so simple. And it got me thinking, like, at what point are the games that we're playing today going to be considered as dated as Pong, you know? Like, is there going to reach a time when people look back at, say, Grand Theft Auto 5 and they say, you know, boy, like, that's barely a game. Like, yeah, you kind of have to try, but, you know, who would bother with something so simple? And I wondered, is that ever going to happen? And if it does that mean that it's all relative? You know, like, what counts as a game? Like, this was a game at one point, but now it's kind of just not even worth anyone's time. Or is it the case that games have legitimately gotten superior, and they've reached a point now where, yeah, there will always be better games, and these games will look dated at one point, but they'll always be considered difficult and challenging, and so on. And so, yeah, I just wondered, is there a point where the games that we play today are going to be considered this dated? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that. Something else, though, that I thought was kind of interesting is, as much as I'm, like, ragging on Pong here, you know, I'm not anti-Pong, by any means. I don't know who is. But one thing that's kind of cool is, like, where are the pixels? Like, okay, the ball and the paddles, it's all blocks and stuff. It's all blocks. But can you, like, point to a specific pixel? Like in Mario, you can look at his sprite and you can see the individual pixels here. Here, where are the pixels? The ball seems to be moving so smoothly that I can't even tell if it's on a grid. It almost seems analog, not digital. And that, I always thought that was interesting about some of the really, really old arcade games, is like, yeah, they're so dated and the graphics are so simple and everything's just a dot. And so at one level it's really bad, but at another level, like, we wouldn't get this level of, like, that, see how that ball moves? Every single little inch that it moves. You know, it doesn't jump forward as if it's a pixel jumping across the screen. It is completely smooth. And that's something that, yeah, we have, oh my god, it's a tie game. Who's going to win? Oh, deadlocked. Nah, he's going to win. Nope. Okay. Right paddle seems to be doing better. I think I favor right. But anyway, as I was saying, we wouldn't really, you know, after Atari came out, everything was blocky and pixelated and things moved chunkily because everything was on this pixel grid. We never really got back to this smooth analog level of graphics until we had much, much higher resolutions. So, in some ways, Pong is super dated, but in a few small ways, it's kind of ahead of its time. And, you know, again, it's not a non-game. I guess I called it a non-game already. But, like, there's strategies in terms of where you're going to hit the ball against your paddle. And if you hit it at the very edge, and it will give it a huge angle for moving, which is good. But the flip side is, as you try and get it towards your edge, you have a higher chance of it missing your paddle completely. So there's some strategy, there's some planning. You have to look at where your opponent's paddle is as to where you want to try and hit it. You know, there's stuff going on in Pong. Stuff is going on. But despite all of that, it definitely is dated. This is kind of weird how the right paddle just is like hugging the number, where the left paddle is totally by itself. I wonder why they did that. Okay. Well, we're getting up to the 15-minute mark here. As I said, this is going to be the first of hopefully a number of videos. Perfect way to end. Complete deadlock. This is going to be the first of hopefully a number of videos. This has been Pong. You know, the book that I got this from, as I said, is 1001 Games to Play Before You Die. Would I say you have to play Pong before you die? No. Should you know about Pong? Yeah, I mean, in the way that, you know, you should respect that they kind of set the stage for arcades and video games to come. Yeah, Pong was important. Do you actually need to play it? I don't know. Maybe if you and your friend were hanging out together, you guys could play together, and it'd be kind of fun. Obviously, by yourself, when there's no computer opponent, like I've been playing, it's not worth playing. Maybe if there was a good computer. You know, I remember as a kid, actually, there was one version of Pong I liked. I think it was called Battle Pong. And it was on the Mac computers that we had in our computer lab. And that was amazing. There it was, you know, you play against your friend, you each had a paddle, but the balls would hit power-ups that existed between you. And those power-ups would do a whole bunch of things. They would ricochet the ball into 5 different balls and launch it all over the place. It would give your paddle the ability to shoot bullets at the other paddle. You could do all kinds of stuff. And that was interesting. That was fun. I would say that's worth a play. There are better games. Again, you have to respect it for what it did for the time and how this was one of the first. But I don't think you have to play it. As sad as that sounds. You know what? Go play Pong. It won't take much time. Don't bother trying to do this emulated version that I did of the real original Pong. Just go find one on the web. This thing, I don't know why it's so incompatible with modern recording software, but it totally is. And it took a lot of my time just to run this thing today. Okay, well that's it for today. If you've enjoyed this video, give me a like, give me a subscribe. I'll see you guys in a couple of days with a new video. And I hope you've enjoyed it. All right. Peace.